Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Ann Emanuel. The Elmira Corning Regional Airport is set to receive a big chunk of federal funding. Our Maggie Hall spoke to the airport's Director of Aviation to find out what this funding will mean for the airport.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand have announced that 13 airports will receive over $27 million in federal funding. Among those 13 airports is our very own Elmira Corning Regional Airport. Director of Aviation Thomas Freeman commented that this funding will help the airport start revitalization goals that the airport has been planning on.
Well, the airport had it on a list of projects that we had wanted to complete, but the funding hadn't been available. So this now, created the funding that allows this construction to take place.
The federal funding is administered through the Federal Aviation Administration's Airport Improvement Program. The Elmira Corning Airport will receive $4,381,200 and $200 for reconstruction. Reconstruction will apply to a section of the airport where planes are parked, unloaded, refueled, and boarded.
This particular ramp is on the east side of the airport. It's primarily used for general aviation, and there are several hangars down there that, were constructed when this ramp and this apron was built 30 years ago. And, over the years, they become deteriorated. And it's not, now time for a rehab. Involves, completely removing all the asphalt down to the base and, and literally rebuilding it back up.
Director Freeman did not provide us with a timeline for the project. Maggie Hall, Big Fox News, Corning, Elmira.
One person is dead as a result of a crash in Sheshequin Township. Pennsylvania State Police report that 2 vehicles crashed on North Rome Road on Saturday. The first car crossed the solid double yellow center line and struck the second car head-on. The driver of the second car died from their injuries sustained in the crash, and the passenger in that car was also seriously injured. The driver of the first car, who state police say was driving under the influence, sustained minor injuries. No identities have been released so far. A game jersey worn by Elmira football legend Ernie Davis is up for auction. A 1960 Syracuse jersey worn by Ernie Davis at a game is for sale. According to documentation, the jersey was worn in Syracuse's game at Kansas on October 1st, 1960. The jersey is up for auction by Leland Sports Memorabilia and Sports Card Auctions and can be bid on online. We are now less than 1 month away from the first Republican primary debate, and new polling is giving us a look at where the candidates stand. Doug Luzader is in Washington with more on how the race is shaping up in key primary states.
Well, we've seen a lot of national polls, but you have to drill down into early states like Iowa and South Carolina to see where this contest really stands, with a number of candidates counting on next month's debate to make up some ground.
I'm glad it's going to be a nice cool day down here in South Carolina.
Presidential hopeful Chris Christie courting potential voters at a campaign event in Columbia, South Carolina over the weekend. But he has a tough road ahead of him if he hopes to catch the top of the pack. New Fox Business polling shows 48% of South Carolina Republican primary voters favor Donald Trump as their candidate. The state's former governor, Nikki Haley, is a distant second at 14%.
I'm not concerned. We hit all of our benchmarks. Look, the rest of the guys have spent millions of dollars in ads and all of this other stuff.
Another poll in the early caucus state of Iowa shows 46% of GOP voters back Trump over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's polling at just 16%.
Donald Trump is still in an absolutely dominant position. If someone's going to sneak up on him and have a chance of beating him, you have to consolidate the non-Trump people and win over some of the Trump supporters.
These polls are also helping shape the field for the first Republican primary debate in August. Trump, DeSantis, Haley, and tech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy are among those who have met the polling threshold, but there's also other criteria in order to qualify.
We've seen a lot of them make this $40,000 small dollar donor threshold, which I think is just a building block. If you can't raise $40,000 in small dollar donations or 40,000 different small dollar donations, you're not going to be competitive against Joe Biden.
Now, although Donald Trump has easily qualified for next month's debate, it's not clear yet whether he's going to participate. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
The Justice Department says Texas went too far with their latest move at the border to keep migrants from crossing the Rio Grande. And they say if the state doesn't change course, the feds will pursue legal action. Caroline Shively has more from Washington.
A wall of orange buoys 1,000 feet long floating in the Rio Grande. It's the latest attempt by Texas to deter illegal migration, making the body of water more dangerous to cross.
Governor Abbott has to do something because the federal government is doing nothing.
Critics call the floating border wall a death trap and a political stunt from the state's Republican governor, Greg Abbott.
It is atrocious, the actions that he decides to take.
The Justice Department says the barrier violates federal law and poses humanitarian concerns. They gave Texas a Monday deadline to commit to remove it or else they'll sue.
It is a shame, though, as a federal agent that the federal government is not letting us get out there and actually do our job.
Texas has been escalating its tactics at the border as part of Operation Lone Star, a $4 billion security initiative, which includes the use of razor wire to stop crossings.
When you see humans come into the border with scars and cuts on their body by something that only one governor in the entire country has decided to do, it's really shameful.
Governor Abbott is defending his actions, saying in a letter to the president that the Constitution grants Texas sovereign authority to protect its borders. The White House says Texas is undermining their border policies, which they argue are working. Border encounters plunged 30% in June, the lowest level in over 2 years.
They do deserve some credit for the numbers being down, but there's a lot of reasons for that. It's also 115 degrees in Texas right now. So, a lot of people are waiting until a cooler part of the year to come over.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas could face a grilling on the border from Congress when he testifies on Capitol Hill Wednesday. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Our complete workweek forecast is next, plus this.
Some of sports' biggest names are joining forces with a new boat racing competition. I'm Marianne Rafferty with a look at all the excitement coming up.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Good evening and happy Friday. It's been a pretty active week overall. We were watching some spotty activity today, and then just looking at even the last 5 days when it comes to precipitation totals, we've had nearly measurable precipitation every day, except for Monday. They're only seeing a trace. However, that still brings that 5-day total to 1.5 inches. And we'll note that if you are looking for some drier days, those are finally ahead. We're watching this system continue to drape its way out of the area, keeping us under a west-northwesterly wind, allowing for some comfortable overnight lows into those upper 50s and lower 60s. And then the weekend is going to set up to be a gorgeous one. So if you have outdoor plans, and if you don't, you want to make some, because we're going to have seasonal sunshine around. Shouldn't be too sticky. Winds are going to be fairly light. And we'll talk about some warming ahead that's going to make getting outdoors definitely a bit more of that summertime stickiness feel. Now, early next week, we will be watching a passing system that will bring back some showers and thunderstorms, but not going to take over the whole week like we were seeing this week with daily chances on the board. What we will see is we'll have that passing system, and then that passing system is going to usher us underneath a nice strong southerly flow that is going to bring us to some of those hot, sunny conditions by about Wednesday, where we could see highs into those 90s, and that could be paired up with some of that summertime humidity. So get out and enjoy a gorgeous weekend. 81 for our high tomorrow. A west-northwesterly wind continues to stay nice and light. Not too much for any heat indices there, as we will see that sunshine area-wide. Maybe a few passing clouds, can't rule those out, but for the most part, generally a pretty nice day in store for the area. area. We head into that Sunday forecast, noting that we continue times of that sunshine. Now, note that with clear and calm skies through the overnight, that is going to allow for, as our area is typical to seeing, that patchy fog development. So with lows down to about 56 degrees, could be open window weather. Those afternoons definitely still a little warm at times, but manageable for our area. So you can get a nice cool breeze from Sunday morning, and then by Sunday afternoon, you may want to close the windows and turn that air conditioning back on, because we see the high pressure system is going to center over the area, which gives us some brighter skies and high temperatures seasonable, maybe a touch warmer depending on that wind switch and pump that we get from that southerly return. Now, we do note that that southerly turn is going to allow for dew points to climb as well. So again, not too sticky over the weekend. By Monday into Wednesday, we start to see dew points climb. Now, one thing to note is that early in the week with those dew points climbing, it will be associated with some shower and thunderstorm chances. But then by about Wednesday, that's going to be when we have generally dry conditions, and with high temperatures nudging towards those 90s, that could then allow for the potential of talking on heat and humidity concerns. And then by next weekend, our last weekend of July, we could be talking about more of that thunder risk in place.